Before we move on to looking at Chapter 3 and beginning Unit 2 in our course, I thought it would be helpful to review just for a moment what we did in Unit 1. So here I'm showing a slide that was presented very early in the course. Notice that it shows our course material broken into 3 key parts. We have just completed taking a look at the first part, which was called Descriptive Statistics, and I'll talk a little bit more about that again in a moment. But now we are moving firmly into what I call the interlude portion of the course, where we start to take a look at some concepts of probability and 2 key distributions of data, which we will do in Chapter 4, and that will lead us into that transition of talking about inferential statistics, which we will do for the whole last half of this course. So in descriptive statistics, what did we talk about? Well, in the prelude part, that is section 1.2, we saw that there are 2 ways of categorizing data in the course, either as categorical or qualitative variables, which have levels of measurement of nominal and ordinal, or numerical or quantitative variables, which are levels of measurement are continuous and discrete. Then we took a look in sections 1.3 and 1.4 at how we might go about gathering data. The first way of gathering data is by what we call sampling. The best way to do that is by simple random sampling. But there are other methods that we have to use sometimes because simple random sampling is just too difficult to do because we have too large of a population or for other reasons. So other ways of gathering samples would be stratified, cluster, and multi-stage. Those are good ways of doing it. And then there was one way that we discussed, which is a horrible way of gathering data called a convenience sampling method. Notice that the sampling methods are when we perform an observational study. The other way of being able to gather data is by what we call an experiment, where we have a treatment and a control group, and we use experiments as a way of showing if there is a causal relationship between 2 variables when we are doing an experiment. The last thing I want to go ahead and mention is that in Chapter 2, we started looking at ways of summarizing data either numerically or graphically or tabularly. The numerical methods were, we had 3 different types of measures that we used to summarize data there: measures of center, measures of variation, and measures of relative standing. And remember that there were different measures for those 3 types of measures depending on whether we were dealing with a 2-dimensional or a 1-dimensional view of data. The graphical or tabular methods, we talked about frequency tables, histograms, bar graphs, box plots, and others. And that was pretty much it for Chapter 2. That concludes our review of Unit 1, and we will now go ahead and start moving into taking a look at Chapter 3 in Unit 2.